Here is a short rollerball tutorial in Godot. We will be adding in a CSG box and setting its size to 50, 0.2, 50, and turn collision on. Next, we go into the Y view to get a top-down view of the scene, and assign a light gray material to the platform to let it stand out. Let's add some walls. Add another CSG box with the size at 55, 0.5, and place it on one of the 4 sides. Then move it up slightly to make the wall higher. Make sure your collision is on. Then we duplicate it 3 times for the other 3 sides of the platform. Let's assign a new material to the wall, a darker gray this time, and save the material so we can add it to the other 3 walls. Environments and sunlight. Sunlight is a constant source of light coming from one direction within the scene. Here, you can adjust the angle at which it hits the objects, the color it emits, as well as the energy or brightness and the distance of the shadows. Environments are slightly different. This allows you to change the way the scene is perceived. So, colors, how the sky looks. Let's add in a nice orange color to the sky and a dark brown for the ground color. Player character. For this project, we will be going against the norm and using the rigid body as the player character. Create your new scene with the rigid body as the root, then add a collision shape and a CSG sphere. Set the collision shape to a sphere shape and change the material to a color you like. I chose green. Change the name of the root node to player, save the scene, and name it appropriately. Organizing your scene. By incorporating the node into your scene, you can make children of that node and label them to make your scene tree easier to read. This will help with bigger projects in the future, so try your best to make this a habit. Drag in your player scene into the world and place it somewhere you consider appropriate. Cameras. Cameras are important to view everything within your scene. Camera 2D and camera 3D are used to watch your character move throughout the scene. There are a few ways you can use a camera. Make the camera a child of the player. This can cause issues with the ball because it will actually rotate with the ball. You can leave the camera separate so it can view the entire scene. Another option is to add a node that has the same position of the player at all times and make the camera the child of that node. We will have the camera view the entire scene from a top down. Add the camera and rotate it on the X-axis. If you have the camera selected, in the top of the inspector tab, you can see the entire camera's view. You can adjust the field of view or change the position of the camera to get a better look at the scene. The ball is looking a little small, so let's change the radius to 2 on both the CSG sphere and the collision shape. Make sure the ball is above the platform and play the game. Did you see how the ball drops all the way to the ground? That's the effect of rigid bodies. No need to code anything at all. Physics are already built in. Scripts. When creating a script, you need to make sure the node you want the script attached to is currently selected. Make sure you are selecting the root of the player scene and click the little paper icon at the top of the scene dock to add a script. From top to bottom, we have the extends rigid body 3D portion. This is just saying that our script will inherit all of the pre-built code in Godot for the rigid body. There are 2 functions in the script, ready and process. The ready function plays immediately on startup, so the second you hit play. The second is the process function that runs the block of code every frame. The function that this rigid body will be using is the physics process. Variables. Variables are a way to assign important information that you will reference later on within functions. A constant is labeled with the keyword const, C-O-N-S-T, which means that no matter what, this variable cannot change. Var, V-A-R, is the preface that tells Godot what comes next is a variable. These variables can be assigned both outside of a function at the top of the script and inside of a function. When assigning a variable within a function though, you can only reference that variable within that function. Create the variable gravity and assign it project settings, get settings, then default gravity. Project settings is in reference to a class called project settings. Then we are getting the setting, which is a function built into the game engine, and looking for the setting through a string type. The forward slashes help with locating the file. Think of it like File Explorer on Windows. Users, then you go into pictures, and there's your pictures you were looking for. Adding a colon and assigning it to the property float means that the variable gravity will always be of type float. You can also do this by typing colon equal sign and then assigning the value. Velocity is the assigned variable for the rigid body's movement and will be assigned the type vector3. Moving the rigid body. To get the rigid body to move through input, add a new variable called input_dir and have it equal input.get_vector. Then we reference input bindings that will be assigned later. Now assign the input direction to the correct direction that the rigid body should be moving. That's going to be velocity.x to input direction.x and velocity.z to input direction.y. Input direction is on a 2D plane, so x and y, while the rigid body is 3D and can move on 3 axes. For Godot, the y-axis is up and the x and z axis are forward, back, left, and right. The final line of code will be to apply the force to the rigid body, which also requires a vector 3. Then we assign the vector 3 velocity.x 0 and velocity.z and multiply it all by delta. Delta is the time in which the game passes and counteracts frame rate. Input. Let's create the inputs and assign them the correct names and keys. Go to project settings, input map. The section that asks you to add new action is where you will create your action name. Create the actions exactly how you reference them in the code. Press the plus button below next to the action name and a new window will come up up asking for you to listen for inputs. Type A on your keyboard and the action should immediately take you to the A key and select it. Click OK and the A key is now assigned to the left action. Repeat this for the other actions using the W, A, S, and D keys. Play the scene and you should be able to move the character around the scene now. Pickups. Collectibles are fairly easy to create in Godot. We will create a new scene and add 3 nodes. In this order, you will start with the scene root and area 3D node, a collision shape node with the collision shape being a cube, the default settings, and finally a CSG box with a new yellow material. Rotating the pickup. The animation player is a node that you can use to add keyframes to. Add an animation player node, set the node to autoplay on load and looping to true. To create your keyframes, you need to go into the area 3D's inspector and then the transform tab. You should see rotation and a key to the right of it. Make sure the rotation is set to 0 on all axes and click the key. Remove the check for create reset tracks. Now move all the way to the end of the track. Change the rotation of the area 3D to 360 on all 3 axes and click the key icon again. Congratulations! You just created your first animation. You can now click play on the animation player and see the pickup's rotation. To slow the rotation down, you can adjust the speed scale in the animation player's inspector. Add your pickups to the world scene and your pickups should automatically be playing thanks to the autoplay on load checkmark. Signals. Signals are a way for one node to communicate to other nodes and tell it something has happened. Click on the root node. It should be called pickups at this point. Now go over to the inspector tab and you should see another tab called node. Click it. This is where all the signals that the node can emit are held. Add the body entered signal, remove the code pass, and add in the code q_free. This is a built-in function that will remove the node from the game scene every time a body enters this area node. If your pickup is not showing whenever you press play, it is probably colliding with the ground or walls. Enemies. Let's create the first enemy. Go into your pickup scene and click scene, save as, and rename the scene file to enemy. If your enemy scene has the animation player node, you can delete it now. Change the CSG box size to 2 and the collision shape size to 2. Add the enemy scene to the world environment. Finally, remove the script attached to the enemy and create a new script called enemy. Add the same signal from previously on body entered. Leave the code for now. We will revisit it later. In the world scene, add an animation player node. Create a keyframe of the start position of the enemy in the world and add an end position and set the animation to autoplay on load and set it to ping pong. Ping pong allows the enemy to move back and forth between the 2 locations. You can then adjust the speed by changing the animation speed scale. Score and health. Add a canvas layer node to the world scene and 2 label nodes, one named score and another named health. Drag those 2 label nodes into the player script and change the variable names to score label and health label. Add 2 more variables, one named score, assign it to an int and the number 0. Health will be the same except the value is 5. Now create 2 new functions, update underscore score and take underscore damage. For score, we will add score plus equals 1 and score label dot text equals quotations score colon space end quotations plus str score. For take damage, we will subtract 1 from health, change the health text the same way we did with the score text, and check to see if health equals 0. We reload the scene using get tree dot reload underscore current underscore scene. Now go back into the pickup script and add this line of code, body dot update underscore score. Do the same for the enemy script except add if body dot name equals quotations player colon body dot take underscore damage. To increase the size of your text, go into your label and click on new label setting. Create the new label, click on it. You should see a tab called font. You can click the drop down arrow and change the size in there. I set mine to 42 pixels. In this video, we covered a lot of fundamental topics to help you get used to the engine, such as building out a level, adding an environment, an introduction to rigid bodies, adding a camera, and utilizing area nodes. Also, you worked with signals and creating scripts, as well as adding in a simple UI overlay. With this knowledge, you can start creating simple games such as Super Monkey Ball, Marble It Up, and Bounce, and then expand your game further from there. Thank you for watching. If you feel like you got value from this video, please like and subscribe. If you are stuck on something or want to leave a comment, please do. It helps support the channel. With that being said, see you in the next one.